Anna Nicole Smith was never meant to fade quietly. She was the blonde bombshell America thought it knew, the small-town girl turned playboy centerfold, who married a billionaire, battled his family in court, and lived under the camera's unrelenting glare. But in February 2007, her story ended in a lonely Florida hotel room. And the way she died, and the people circling her in those chaotic final months, made the whole world wonder, was Anna Nicole Smith's death really just a tragedy, or something closer to a crime? She was born Vicki Lynn Hogan in Mexia, Texas. A struggling waitress who dreamed bigger than her circumstances. In the early 90s, her life changed overnight when she graced the cover of Playboy and caught the attention of 89-year-old oil tycoon J. Howard Marshall. Their marriage in 1994 made headlines. She was 26, he was nearly 90. Critics sneered, tabloids mocked, and late-night hosts turned her into a punchline. But Anna always insisted, she loved him. When Marshall died just a year later, the fairy tale twisted into a courtroom saga. Anna claimed she was promised a share of his billion-dollar estate. His family called her a gold digger. The case dragged on for years, lawsuits, appeals, endless depositions. And through it all, Anna's face was everywhere. To the public, she was part Marilyn Monroe, part scandal, part tragicomic figure. But behind the glossy headlines, was a woman sinking deeper into dependency. By 2006, Anna's life was spiraling. She was living in the Bahamas, pregnant with a baby girl, clinging to hope that motherhood would be her salvation. But fate had other plans. Just 3 days after she gave birth, her 20-year-old son Daniel, her pride, her companion, her everything, flew in to meet his baby sister. Within hours, he was dead. The cause? A lethal mix of antidepressants and methadone. Anna's scream when doctors told her was described as bone-chilling. Witnesses said she collapsed on the hospital floor, inconsolable, begging for her son to wake up. In the span of a week, she had gained a daughter, and lost her son. The cameras caught her looking hollow, glassy-eyed, clutching her newborn like a lifeline. And it was then, in that storm of grief, that the people around her closed ranks. Her lawyer, Howard K. Stern, stepped forward. He claimed to be the baby's father, though 2 other men, photographer Larry Burkhead and even Anna's former bodyguard, also said they might be. The paternity battle exploded into headlines, tabloids, and courtrooms. For Anna, already fragile, the circus only tightened its grip. But the public didn't see everything. Behind closed doors, Anna's medications multiplied. She was being prescribed an astonishing cocktail of pills, methadone, anti-anxiety drugs, sedatives, painkillers. Bottles followed her from home to hotel, doctor to doctor. Witnesses described her stumbling through conversations, slurring her words, unable to walk without help. And yet, the people closest to her insisted everything was under control. On February 8, 2007, Anna Nicole Smith checked into the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. She was sick, feverish, coughing, sweating. For days, she refused to go to the hospital. Those around her claimed she didn't want the media to catch her in a vulnerable state. But the truth? Anna was barely holding on. Her entourage, Howard K. Stern, bodyguard Mo Breithaupt, and his wife, hovered nearby. Stern claimed he was her protector, her confidant, the only one she could trust. But others whispered that he was also controlling, isolating her, keeping her medicated and compliant. At 2:10 p.m. on February 8, Anna was found unconscious in her hotel suite. The frantic 911 call went out. Rescuers arrived. They tried desperately to revive her. By 2:49 p.m., Anna Nicole Smith was pronounced dead. She was 39 years old. The official cause? Accidental overdose of chloral hydrate, a powerful sleeping medication, combined with multiple other prescription drugs. But to many, the explanation didn't fit. How did she get so many drugs prescribed under so many different names? Why wasn't she hospitalized when she was clearly sick? And why, in those final hours, were the people closest to her more concerned about media attention than her collapsing health? Her death certificate might say, accidental. But the circumstances read like the setup to a thriller. A bitter dispute. A newborn daughter with an uncertain father. Doctors under investigation for reckless prescriptions. And a lawyer lover who inherited control over her estate, her child, and her legacy. Anna once told an interviewer, "I've been through a lot. But when I go, people are gonna say, oh my God, she really lived." What she didn't know was how many questions her death would leave unanswered. Even in the days after she died, her body became a courtroom spectacle. Judges debated where she should be buried. Lawyers argued over her will. And 3 men stood ready to fight for her baby girl, Danielyn. The cameras never looked away. But inside hotel rooms, hospital records, and legal documents, were clues pointing to something darker. Was Anna Nicole Smith truly a victim of her own excess, or was she surrounded by people who stood to gain from her downfall? Because the deeper investigators looked, the more sinister the picture became. If you're captivated by true crime and celebrity mysteries, hit subscribe and never miss a case. Anna Nicole Smith's body lay cold in a Florida morgue. But her death did not bring peace. Instead, it ignited one of the strangest legal battles in celebrity history, where her corpse itself became evidence, property, and power. Within days of her passing, the courtroom spectacle began. Her estranged mother, Virgie Arthur, demanded Anna be buried in Texas, close to family, far from the Hollywood chaos that had consumed her. Howard K. Stern, Anna's lawyer and self-proclaimed partner, insisted she should rest in the Bahamas, beside her son Daniel. The fight wasn't just about burial. It was about control. Whoever controlled Anna's body, also held leverage over her estate, her child, and her story. Reporters swarmed the courthouse. The hearings were broadcast live. In one surreal moment, the judge actually broke down in tears as he weighed arguments about where Anna's body should lie. The nation watched in disbelief. Anna Nicole Smith was gone, and yet, she was still trapped in the circus she could never escape. Then came the autopsy. The world wanted answers. Dr. Joshua Perper, the Broward County medical examiner, examined Anna's body. The toxicology report revealed a staggering list of prescription medications: methadone, Valium, Ativan, chloral hydrate. But there was more. Some bottles were prescribed under fake names. Some doctors were accused of writing prescriptions they never should have. The official ruling? Accidental overdose. Yet even Perper admitted privately that the sheer number of drugs in her system was alarming. And whispers grew louder. Had Anna been overmedicated? Had someone around her ensured she stayed dependent and pliant? While the medical mystery unfolded, another battle was raging. The question of who fathered Anna's infant daughter, Danielyn. Howard K. Stern claimed paternity, parading the baby before cameras and declaring himself the guardian of Anna's legacy. But California photographer Larry Burkhead wasn't buying it. He filed a lawsuit, demanding a DNA test. The tabloids exploded. Headlines screamed, "Who's the daddy?" Talk shows ran countdowns. Every night, Anna's baby was splashed across TV screens, caught in a tug-of-war between 2 men. Even another name entered the ring, Prince Frederick von Anhalt, husband of actress Zsa Gabor, who bizarrely claimed he also could be the father. The story that had begun with tragedy was now unraveling into farce. But beneath the media frenzy was a child. A baby girl, not yet a year old, who had already lost her mother, and was at the center of a storm she couldn't understand. Meanwhile, investigators probed Anna's final days at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel. Witnesses described strange scenes. Anna refused medical care, feverish and hallucinating. Her staff tried herbal remedies, ice baths, even mushroom tea, to bring her fever down. All while powerful sedatives and sleeping medications circulated in the room. And always nearby, Howard K. Stern. Stern insisted he was Anna's protector. But critics painted a darker portrait, a man who blurred the line between lawyer, lover, and gatekeeper. He controlled her access. He controlled her finances. He even controlled her medications. When the FBI began looking into how Anna obtained so many prescriptions under false names, the trail led back to Stern and her doctors. The question sharpened. Was Anna Nicole Smith's death the inevitable result of her addictions? Or the consequence of people who stood to gain by keeping her hooked? By April 2007, the first answers emerged. The DNA results were in. The father of Anna Nicole Smith's baby was not Howard K. Stern. It was Larry Burkhead. The courtroom erupted. Outside, Burkhead wept with relief, cradling his daughter and telling reporters, "I told you so." For Stern, it was a stunning blow. In a matter of minutes, he lost both legal standing and public sympathy. But the bigger questions remained unresolved. Who had truly been pulling the strings in Anna's final months? And how deep did the web of enablers, doctors, and hangers-on really go? Anna Nicole Smith had dreamed of being remembered like Marilyn Monroe. And in a tragic twist, she was. Both women, icons of beauty, fame, and scandal. Both dead before 40. Both surrounded by mystery, prescription bottles, and whispers of exploitation. But Anna's story wasn't over. Because even after death, investigators continued to pull at threads that revealed shocking details. Doctors indicted. Prescription fraud exposed. Confessions from those inside her inner circle. Each new revelation painted a picture of a woman not just lost to addiction, but caught in a deadly orbit of people who may have benefited more from her silence than her survival. And as prosecutors prepared charges, Stern faced his darkest days yet. The world braced for the possibility that Anna Nicole Smith's death wasn't accidental at all. Because if the evidence was true, someone may have orchestrated it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Anna Nicole's death was an accident, or something darker? In death, Anna Nicole Smith was everywhere. Her face on magazine covers. Her name echoing in courtrooms. Her child was caught in a media frenzy. But behind the cameras, investigators were quietly piecing together a chilling portrait of what really happened in her final months. And the closer they looked at her inner circle, the darker the story became. It began with the prescriptions. Detectives noticed something strange. Anna's name wasn't on most of the pill bottles found in her hotel suite. Instead, they were written under aliases like Michelle Chase or even her bodyguard's name. Doctors had prescribed staggering amounts of methadone, anti-anxiety drugs, and sedatives, sometimes all at once. It wasn't sloppy paperwork. It looked deliberate. The trail led back to two California physicians, Dr. Sandeep Kapoor and Dr. Christine Irashevich. And always, standing beside them, Howard K. Stern. Prosecutors alleged Stern had orchestrated the prescriptions, pressuring doctors to write them under false names. The goal? To keep Anna sedated, dependent, and under his control. For years, Stern had been dismissed as just Anna's quirky companion. Now, he was being painted as something far more sinister, the architect of her decline. Meanwhile, Larry Burkhead had won custody of Danielyn. The baby girl, wide-eyed and innocent, was whisked away to Kentucky, leaving the Bahamas mansion where Anna had once cradled her. The tabloids dubbed her the billion-dollar baby, since she stood to inherit whatever fortune remained from Anna's estate and the unresolved battle over J. Howard Marshall's billions. But that inheritance also meant one thing. Where Danielyn went, money and power followed. And Stern wasn't about to disappear quietly. In March 2009, after years of investigation, prosecutors in Los Angeles dropped a bombshell. Howard K. Stern, Dr. Kapoor, and Dr. Irashevich were indicted. The charges: conspiring to furnish drugs to Anna Nicole Smith. It wasn't murder. But it was close enough to confirm what the public had long suspected, that Anna hadn't simply overdosed by accident. She'd been surrounded by people who fed her addiction until it killed her. The trial was a spectacle. In the courtroom, prosecutors painted Stern as manipulative, obsessed with control, and financially motivated to keep Anna hooked. They showed jurors evidence of fake prescriptions, text messages, and witnesses who claimed Stern was often the one fetching and handing over pills. The defense pushed back, saying Stern only wanted to protect Anna, that he was a scapegoat for a woman whose fame and addiction had spiraled beyond anyone's control. But the testimony was damning. A nurse recalled pleading with Anna to cut down her medications, only to be overruled by Stern. Others described him as Anna's gatekeeper, deciding who could see her, who could call her, and even how much medication she took each day. And still, the ghost of Daniel, Anna's son, hovered over the trial. Two Smiths, dead from overdoses just months apart. Both surrounded by the same inner circle. Coincidence? Or a pattern? Outside the courthouse, fans lit candles and clutched photos of Anna in her prime, smiling, radiant, alive. Inside, prosecutors argued that Anna Nicole Smith had been more than a victim of addiction. She had been managed, manipulated, and, some believed, systematically destroyed. And though the charges weren't for murder, the implication hung heavy. If Stern and the doctors hadn't enabled her drug use, would Anna Nicole Smith still be alive? By late 2010, the trial ended with a shocking twist. Stern and the doctors were convicted on several counts. But months later, much of the case unraveled on appeal. Judges threw out most of the convictions, citing lack of evidence and questionable jury instructions. For Stern, it was a lifeline. He walked away without serving prison time. But his reputation, and his role in Anna's death, was forever tainted. Even as the legal dust settled, one haunting truth remained. Anna Nicole Smith was gone. Her son was gone. Her fortune was scattered. All that remained was Danielyn, the child at the center of it all, growing up with no memory of her mother, only the weight of her legacy. And yet, questions refused to die. Why were Anna's warnings ignored? Who truly benefited from her spiral? And did the legal system fail to hold anyone accountable for the death of a woman who had been treated less like a human being, and more like a commodity? Because even after the courtroom battles ended, one final revelation would shake everything. An unsealed deposition. A financial trail. A confession whispered behind closed doors. Something that suggested Anna Nicole Smith's death wasn't just the product of chaos, but the result of a plan. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this really a result of a plan? If it is, what do you think is the plan? Years passed. The headlines faded. But the questions around Anna Nicole Smith's death never really went away. Because in Hollywood, especially when a woman dies too young, the truth rarely comes neatly packaged. Howard K. Stern tried to rebuild his life. After years of being branded the villain in Anna's downfall, he eventually left the spotlight, returning quietly to the practice of law. But his name would forever be tied to suspicion. For many, he was the man who stood closest to Anna, and did the least to save her. The doctors who had prescribed her endless medications faced professional disgrace. Dr. Christine Irashevich and Dr. Sandeep Kapoor lost credibility, their medical practices scarred by the public trials. None of them served hard prison time. None of them carried the label of murderer. And yet, none of them walked away innocent. Because every time the public sees Anna Nicole Smith's final photos, disoriented, hollow-eyed, begging for relief, they remember who was standing beside her. And who wasn't. Then there was Danielyn. The little girl whose very existence sparked battles over paternity, custody, and fortune. Larry Burkhead, the photographer who once fought for her in court, became her sole guardian. He raised her far from the glare of Hollywood, in Kentucky, where life was quieter, slower, and safer. But as Danielyn grew, so did the weight of her inheritance. She was tied by blood to Anna's chaotic legacy, and to J. Howard Marshall's billion-dollar fortune, still unresolved after decades of litigation. Reporters called her the billion-dollar baby. But to Larry, she was just his daughter, a child who deserved to be protected from the same spotlight that destroyed her mother. And for the most part, he kept that promise. Each year, the world caught only glimpses, a father and daughter at the Kentucky Derby, smiling for cameras, Anna's likeness flickering faintly in Danielon's features. But behind closed doors, she was raised to know the truth, that her mother was more than a headline, more than a scandal. That she was loved. As for Anna herself, her legacy became a mirror. To some, she was a cautionary tale of addiction, fame, and exploitation. To others, she was a modern-day Marilyn Monroe, too beautiful, too fragile, too broken by the very world that made her famous. But to those who knew her best, she was Vicki Lynn Hogan, a small-town girl who wanted to be loved, who wanted to give her children more than she had been given. In the end, she left behind neither riches nor stability. Only a daughter who would carry the story forward. And a haunting reminder of what happens when fame devours the very people it creates. Years after her death, sealed testimony was unsealed in the J. Howard Marshall estate case. In it, Anna described how isolated she felt. How she was kept under by medication, how those around her controlled her every move. It wasn't a confession of murder. But it was proof that Anna herself knew, even as she spiraled, that she was not entirely in control of her own fate. And that is perhaps the greatest crime of all. Not that Anna Nicole Smith overdosed. But so many people watched her unravel, enabled her collapse, and profited from her downfall. Until there was nothing left but silence. In Hollywood, death is never the final act. It's the encore. And Anna Nicole Smith's encore has lasted nearly 2 decades, echoing through tabloids, courtrooms, and documentaries. Each retelling asks the same questions. Was she a victim of her own flaws, or of the people who claimed to love her? The answer, perhaps, is both. When Anna was once asked how she wanted to be remembered, she said, "As somebody who wanted it all, and went after it all, and almost got it." And in that bittersweet irony lies her truth. She did become famous. She did capture the world's attention. She did find love, in her own chaotic way. But she also became a victim of a system, and a circle of people, who saw her less as a person, and more as a prize. Her story is not just about Hollywood. It's about every woman used up and cast aside by an industry that thrives on beauty, scandal, and tragedy. It's about the cost of silence, the price of complicity, and the danger of surrounding yourself with people who profit more from your downfall than your survival. Anna Nicole Smith was many things, a dreamer, a mother, a wife, a fighter, a punchline, and finally, a tragedy. But in her story, we are reminded of a lesson no one should forget. That justice is not always found in courtrooms. Sometimes, justice is found in remembering the truth. And the truth is this: Anna Nicole Smith should have lived. The end. Like, share, and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories that Hollywood doesn't want you to remember.